So I would just like to kind of like set the space of the energy so that I can kind of like share from the human perspective, but also from the perspective of the higher self. So just inviting everyone to just take a moment to close your eyes, place one hand on your heart, one hand on your sacral, take a deep breath in of love. And deep breath out, grounding yourself into this moment, into this presence, into this conversation, as we ask for the clearest channel of light to run through of source consciousness, of the most amount of value and high frequency that is of service to one and all and to the planet. So all the conversations and messages are coming from a true space of authenticity. Beautiful. So I'll give you kind of like the short version, but I was pretty awake as a child. I actually started walking when I was 8 months old, which is what I'm told was when I started my path, which is very young for a little baby to be walking. And my mum was in labor with me for about 20 minutes, very short labor after her contractions. And so it was an interesting experience being like a starseed in a human body, and also understanding that I'm also a human. I'm also like a young being, but I was very psychic, very connected. I knew that I was a witch. I knew that I had psychic powers. I knew that I could read people's minds. I knew that I could read energy. I knew that I could talk to the deceased. I knew that there was angels. I knew that there were guides, and I have many like memories when I was a child of just literally wandering off for hours on my own and kind of coming back and not really kind of knowing where I was, but it would be nighttime and I'd be coming back. I had very hippie parents, so they weren't too worried about me coming back late. And so had a lot of interesting gifts as a child, like a photographic memory, and I had the ability to read without reading. And so it wasn't until I was 7 or 8 that they realized that I wasn't actually reading books. I just had a photographic memory, and I could memorize an entire book if you'd read it to me once. And so obviously they stripped that down because they called me dyslexic, and you know, anything else that was abnormal to the normal schooling systems and everything, and even the traumas I experienced as a child and the crazy experiences of my parents. I always knew that they were working out their shadow, they were working out their karma. And so I never had that sense as a child or as a teenager or as an adult of mummy didn't give me love or daddy didn't give me this. Like I had no expectations of my family actually, which was quite interesting as a person, because most of us carry these deep-seated traumas from childhood and we try and make sense of it, right? And I always knew deep down, there's like, oh, well, I just understand that they're continuing the patterns of their parents, right? And so I didn't really have a need to have any expectation from that in that way. And in any senses, I had a lot of profound unconditional love for them and just held a lot of forgiveness for them, you know, because they were just working out their wounding and their childhood traumas. So I always knew I was a little bit strange, a little bit different, and walked the path, you know, into my 20s, always never really being able to put my finger on it of what was different. And by that point, you know, a lot of my awarenesses and connection to spirit was kind of numbed down through drugs and alcohol and working and, you know, just trying to find my way in life. But I always knew that there was this version, this being that was inside me, and I just didn't know how to set her free. So I was very much in these interesting sabotaging experiences, like smoking a lot of cigarettes every day and drinking loads of coffee and working 70-hour weeks. But I just kept getting this image of this like healthy, glowing, happy version inside. And it wasn't until about 2008 that I started to receive more intense activational triggers, which are set codes to go off in a holographic structure to awaken the soul from its sleeping slumber of the matrix. That's the best way I can explain it. And from that, there were these unexplainable, which are very explainable when you understand awakening, events that didn't make sense to the rational mind, but it set me on a path to start asking questions that I didn't know I needed to ask, but I was asking them etherically. I was asking them in my heart. I was asking them in my being. I was searching for something. I was longing for something. I was craving for something to explain what was this thing, what was this desire, what was the how, and what was the version of me. I didn't know what that version was, but it was deep, deep, deep inside. And so 2008, 9, 10, 11 saw a astronomical shift of my entire reality, and definitely at the beginning stages of that released a timeline. I collapsed a timeline. So my relationship ended and folded, my career path ended and folded, my finances ended and folded, the place I was living ended and folded, the friendship groups that I had ended and folded, and I was left in this shattered heap on the floor, looking up to the heavens, like, how have I got this so wrong? How did this version of my life that I was so desperately wanting to hold on to, this lifestyle, this relationship, this version, but it wasn't who I truly was? And that's when I heard this message, now you're ready. And I was like, ready for what? The message said, ready to know who you are, ready for the journey. And so I rebuilt from the ground up the foundational tools based upon knowing that there was more to life than what I'd seen. And then I found myself walking around in the streets like, does this person know? That person surely knows. Do they get it? Do they understand what's happening here? And at the time, it was very lonely because there was me, myself, and I that had the secrets, what it felt like to the universe, and there was no one there to talk to. And so over those years, I felt like I did 2 degrees and a PhD on quantum physics, quantum mechanics, string theory, being an empath, 2012, the Mayan calendar, UFOs, the Pleiadians, the councils of light, interstellar travel, telepathy, telekinesis, chakras, Reiki, Shambhala, multidimensional healing, you know, I just went so deep in. Sometimes I would be up till 3, 4, 5, 6 a.m. just soaking and absorbing up information, because I was like, okay, how long have I been asleep? And I need to know all of the perspectives and all of the angles, what everyone thinks is happening. So then I can come to my own awareness through physical embodiment and physical experiences. And so from that, the releasing of codependent tendencies, sabotaging belief structures, you know, the smoking, drinking, drugs in those unconscious and unhealthy ways, they just left. They no longer felt resonant. And this new version of me started to emerge. And as that new version of me started to emerge, there was like one person that came into my field that got it. They were awake. I was awake. We got to band together. Unfortunately, in those early stages, they were kind of trauma codependent bonding, but they were still great because it's like you had like one person to talk to about what this meant. So it's like, okay, great. The fact that there is one other person in this world that gets it means I'm not crazy, or we're both crazy and we're both screwed. And then what happened with that is, as I would shift my frequency, it's like they would just disappear. They would vanish. And I'd feel sad again because I was like, oh, that was kind of my only friend. And spirit was like, it's good. You've cleared what that was. And so fast forward over the years, there's been many a journey that I've walked alone in isolation, not feeling lonely, but in contemplation of aloneness, feeling grounded with myself, and at times also switching off the external perspective of what this all means, of ascension, of awakening, of what you need to do to ascend, and you're here for a mission. And I had to turn it all off and listen to what was coming through inside, because it was very different to what I was reading, because what I was feeling inside, it felt from a place of love. It no longer felt that there was like a sense of urgency or lack of time, or that I was missing the ascension ship, that I wasn't going to get on the spaceship with the aliens. And there was a path that started to emerge and open up that just felt more grounded, more human, almost more in my body, more in this reality, more of a desire to be in this reality, but from an expanded perspective and a higher frequency. And so over the years, what's happened through these expansions is the reality shifted and collapsed and folded into themselves. But I found more grounding in the uncertainty of the unknown. and it allowed for these higher frequency light codes to start coming through my body. So first it was toning, then it was light language, then it was channeling the ancestors and elders through ceremonial song. Then it was high pitched frequency buzzings, and now it's just through embodiment, frequency, just me being in my highest alignment is the activation. It is what is helping others to feel a sense of elevation within their own field. So people that come into my field, a lot comes up for them because it's challenging them to face all the fears or the versions of themselves that they're not. So fast forward to today, it's been a really, really long journey. I'm trying to compact it into a way of explanation that is supportive for those listening, because I know that those listening have all been on that journey as well. And one thing I will say in just completion of this particular sharing is, as we become more embodied in our own truth, that's when we really get to establish soul tribe. That's when the soul family starts to come in. I almost have too many people now in my life that I love so dearly, and that like this huge vast community. But there are times where we have to walk the path alone. No one can walk it with us. We have to walk it alone. And if we can do that in a way of knowing that it's for a deeper level of embodiment, then the gifts beyond that are so much more delicious and tasteful in our human experience.
Oh, beautiful. What an incredible flow of I mean, there were so many golden nuggets sprinkled all within that. I hope everybody was able to really just soak in the pureness and the beauty of that sharing, and the authenticity and realness of it. It's just such a pleasure to hear. It's very poetic, and one thing that really stood out that I feel like, was sort of like, well, a lot of things, obviously, and pretty much all of it. But one thing that you were bringing through that really sort of dropped in, and I heard, the collective sort of connecting to it in a bigger way, is the collapsing of timelines, right? There's so many questions that come in around this, right? And I know we all are unique individual expressions of source, and we have our own way of sort of bringing through information and digesting it through our own unique lenses of perception. And yet, from your many different experiences with this, and of course, this is one of the things I feel like you are really here embodying and sharing and assisting others to navigate through. Can you kind of take it to a one-on-one, 101 level of expression of, what does that mean? Like sharing what that means, what that looked like for you, and how sort of on a more quantum level, how someone could relate to that. Maybe they don't have the languaging, or they've had something similar in experience, but they're not quite sure, oh, is that what took place for me? This timeline collapse. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, put simply, you're moving in one direction, and it's almost like everything at the same time falls apart or comes together or shifts, and I think sometimes the ego can get in the way, because it wants to continue moving forward because it said it would. It would cut off its nose despite its face, as opposed to actually sitting there and tuning in and going, actually, sometimes we have to walk a path to realize that it's the path that is not for our highest good. And I think sometimes people can feel very saddened, well, I really thought this was it, and my guides told me, and I pulled the cards, and the astrological dates were aligned, and it just didn't really feel like it worked out. And it's that's because sometimes on a quantum level, sometimes we've already experienced that, in a parallel version of us. And sometimes the resonant field that we're holding is wanting to bring in a slightly different scenario, but can we get out of our own way to trust that? And that's the biggest piece that's missing for most people when it comes to this journey. So when we talk about timeline collapses, it's not that things didn't work out. It's not that it's not necessarily that things need to fall apart. It's a knowing that where you're vibrating at is here, and perhaps this timeline that you're vibrating at was here. So it's no longer a match. You literally can't hold on to it. And so we have to be willing to let go and let God, surrender into the shifting of that, to create energetic space for something that's perhaps more in our field. But we have no idea what that potential could be, because the mind is always, yeah, but how and when and why and what and who, and it kind of takes the magic out of it. You know, like imagine if you're a kid at Christmas and your parents say, I don't know, on Christmas Eve, like, okay, great, so Harry, for you this year I got you this, and this. Like, well, where's the fun in unwrapping the gifts? You know, it's like, where's the fun in that? It's like, it's already done. Well, I might as well not open that one, because it's, you know, I know what it is. Great, thank you. So the timeline collapsing is a way of us shifting through the dimensional experience that we could have had, but perhaps there is something that is no longer in resonance for us anymore, you know. And so, I mean, a lot of people experience this when they go through awakening, if they've been in long-term relationships, you know, one person awakens, the other one doesn't. And sometimes people are able to still co-create and blend a beautiful love with that. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that we all have to awaken. I know many relationships that have managed to stay together and thrive through one person fully going all into their awakening. And there's some relationships that they have to collapse. Sometimes they have been 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 20 years, kids and relate, you know, the whole thing. And it's as if overnight that is no longer feeling resonant to that person. That's a timeline collapse. It's folded into itself because we're resonating at a different frequency. It's not higher, it's not lower, it's not better, it's not worse. It's just a vibration. And so deep within inside us, there is a desire, right? When we have desire, that's connected to source consciousness. That is what desire is our ability to manifest that what source wants to experience itself as through our individuality. And there is something else for us. So I know, I'm going to tap into relationships here because this is a great analogy for this. I've known many relationships that a couple I know, they were both in, 14, 17-year relationships. They met each other at an event. They didn't know who they were for each other, but just in the meeting and the connection of their souls, they went back to their partners. It totally shifted their relationships. It totally collapsed everything that they had built with their partners. And they didn't know that it was necessarily because they had to be together. But the meeting of each other was like, oh, now I'm awakening, because we awaken all of our energetic centers to a deeper desire, that deeper connection to source consciousness. It clears out any of those perhaps lower frequency karmic connections. It's not good or bad. It was just the experiences that we were having, right? Sometimes we go down one path to know, oh, I really don't want to go down that path. Actually, I thought that was what I wanted, but now I've experienced a bit of that. I actually know to pull back my energy and move in this direction. So those two people that met, they are actually together. They've been together now for 5 years. And the work that they've been able to do together as a divine union couple have been tremendous and astronomical for their results in the world and the energy that they're bringing in. So the timeline collapses is not that it's not good or bad. It's just a shifting of focus, a shifting of alignment, a shifting of frequency. And the biggest piece that we have to embody is trust.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. That's one of my my favorite, for those who have hung out with me for any period of time, know that it is, you know, it is that, right? It's that faith, trust, and surrender. It's, you know, that full, like, okay, let me walk through, you know, really embracing the unknown, really embracing, you know, the gifts, like you're saying, this surprise. And I love how you use the analogy of, like, you know, a child, you know, anticipating the surprises on Christmas, because I'm pretty sure everyone here, unless you're a walk-in and you never experienced Christmas as a child here, knows that excitement, right? It's just like, you know, and so, you know, if we could all just allow ourselves the opportunity or the experience to embrace this now time in that same childlike curiosity and anticipation and trust and, you know, the embrace of the unknown. I think it's beautiful. I love it. And I love how you brought that in and expressed it, because it's so relatable and digestible, and everybody, I feel like, can relate to the experience of a relationship, whether, you know, that of a romantic nature or otherwise. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I'd love to know, you know, I know that you do quite a bit of traveling, and, you know, following your heart and your intuition has led you to different places. And so I'd just love to know how that has unfolded and how trust has played a role in where you are, you know, physically located.
Phew. I'm trying to think of some really fun examples of like totally trusting. So I have a little I want to share this from like a little bit more of a grounded perspective, and I'd love to give a couple of examples when I've got absolutely ridiculous as well. But I think sometimes what we want to do is really tune in to the guidance in our heart, the guidance in our gut, but also the guidance in our mind. And I think sometimes in spiritual teachings, too many people have focused on like, oh, don't listen to the mind and don't listen to the ego and don't listen to rational thinking. And actually rational thinking has a very critical role to play, because it balances out that gut intuition and that heart. So when we can fire up these three cylinders together, which was always the intention of our physical vessels, it allows us to make articulated, calculated decisions, but based in this deep knowing of trusting of the unknown, but also this feeling of like, I just feel like it's going to work out and I have no idea how. But the mind is also making those articulated risks as well. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Okay, so once I was in England and I knew I was meant to be in Central America, working with the Crystalline Grid, opening up the rainbow portals. And so that was like part of a deeper kind of way shower path that I have. I don't really speak about it online. There's a lot of work that we do that we don't really publicly like share too much. But that was one of the things that was written for me to go and work with the ley lines. And I remember sat at home at the family house at the time, and I had no cash basically. And I was trying to get the business kind of off the ground, and I was massaging at the time, and there was like dribs and drabs of money coming in, but it wasn't enough to kind of like go, okay, I'm just going to buy a ticket and go travel for 6 months. I remember having a conversation with my brother, and he's like, you just need to figure out like what it is to get you happy. And I'm like, well, I need to get the business working first, and then I can go live this lifestyle, right? Because I always knew inside of me I wanted to be location independent, right? I wanted to work with the lines of the earth and travel. There was a deep knowing of me that I was very connected to Central America. And I was looking at my bank account, and I had about, I don't know, like £301 in the current account at the time. And I realized that I wasn't thriving because I wasn't allowing myself to create what I truly wanted to create. And I realized that if I had stayed where I was, that was actually harming my potential. And so I did something radical. I looked at flights online, and there was a one-way ticket to Cancun, Mexico for £299, and it was leaving in 3 weeks. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to do it. So I booked the flight. I had £2 left in my account, which some people would feel like, oh my God, how could you do that? But I knew that my rational thought was, well, what's the worst that can happen? If I get to 3 weeks and I don't create the funds to go, then I stay here. I've lost a ticket, but at least I tried. You know, at least I put a little bit of action moving forwards, because I think sometimes we sit here and honestly think that spirit's just going to hand everything to us on a plate. And sometimes we actually have to take some like bold action steps forward, but also have a little bit of an awareness of, if this doesn't work out, what's plan B? And feel okay with that, and not feel that, you know, that we've lost out or that, you know, whatever. And so 3 weeks went by, and there's something really amazing that happens when you take a leap of faith into the unknown like that. You get really resourceful very fast, but you have to do it in a way without thinking too much of the timeline of it, right? Because then this is where we get to kind of stretch time. So something magical happened. All of my massage clients suddenly wanted to see me 3 or 4 times before I left because they wanted to finish up their treatments. I had a refund for a course for £1,000. My brother made me some money. I took out another credit card. I made some cash doing something else. And by the time I was sat on the plane, there was £4,000 in my bank account.
Wow.
I was like, oh, this is how this works. And then that trip was very interesting because that £4,000, it just kept kind of staying the same. Like it never, it's like, it just, sometimes I would pay for things and like it wouldn't go down in the bank account, and I'd be adding everything up. I'm like, well, where was that payment? And it just, things would like vanish, right? It was like this crazy thing that happened. And I felt very humbled on that journey and very abundant. And it was probably the lowest income I've had ever since. But it was the most joy that I experienced because it was from a place of heart consciousness and from a place of rational connection, of a knowing that I was now giving myself the space that I needed to create what I knew I was to create, ready for the online space. And a lot of that was actually me cleansing and clearing my body through that trip, working with the crystalline grids. So I was more than taken care of, so abundant, so healthy, so light. And that was really, I mean, that was, I think, like 7 years ago now. I think 7 years ago. I don't know. I can't remember time. But so I don't expect people to make crazy, like be as crazy as that. What I will say is if you do want to take crazy steps like that, you have to go all in with it energetically. And what a lot of people do is they take crazy steps, but they totally doubt themselves. They second guess themselves. And then they get into this like emotional turmoil, and they don't even allow themselves to receive what is on the other end of that, you know. And I know people that have, you know, they've gone all in their businesses and spent thousands of dollars, you know, thinking, oh, this is going to be the thing that creates the business. And then it isn't, because they doubted themselves. And we can't do that in this day and age. We have to allow ourselves this knowing that this is a hologram. None of this is real. This is all, I mean, it's real as we make it, but there's also energy that runs through every single part of our reality. And so could we perhaps let it be a game and light and playful and joyful, but from a grounded place, like listening to your guidance as well. So, you know, that was a pretty bold and drastic move to have spent the last £300 in the account. But when I got on that plane, I wrote a blog post and I shared, I know why I had to do this, because spirit was stretching me beyond the comfort of what anyone would be comfortable doing, so that I could test this out and share this. Right. And it kind of works. And but you've got to be brave.
Yeah, I love that. You know, I'm so glad you brought up that sharing too about how the bank account stayed the same, because I've had lots of different experiences similar to that over the last, you know, several years with, you know, back with, you know, bank account, with time. Right? With like, you know, when you just kind of surrender into it and like you're saying, and like just trust and go all in, and, you know, and realize where the fear is kind of bubbling up, acknowledge it, honor it for, you know, for its presence, right? But then like, okay, yet I'm going to land right here. And it's so fun to, you know, it's not fun. Part of it's not fun, right? That when it bubbles up and you're like, ooh, you know, but when you allow yourself to like go into that place of trust and that place of all in, you know, you really do allow for the witnessing of some profound magical miracles. And they're in such abundance. And it really does take that ingredient of all in to really be able to experience it. And that story is so powerful and hopeful and I love how grounded you know, you really brought it in. And also, you know, it's so potent and impotent to really make that connection and, you know, establish the importance of, you know, these three centers, right? I mean, I feel like that's probably one of my favorite things that you brought forth in this evening, is that, you know, we were always meant to work in unison with these three really magnificent communication hubs within. And, you know, and not to completely diminish the mind and, you know, and that analytical aspect of, you know, bringing that into the equation, because, you know, we still are here in physical form. And so that's so powerful. I hope everybody was able to really feel the juiciness of that. Are there any other stories that you're feeling like you're dying to share with us? Or I want to side note that for 1 second to say that, you know, I had the gifted and amazing opportunity to get to know Zoe on a more personal soul level in this past linear week. And I've had this inner smile and intermittent laughter taking place ever since I got back here, because, you know, you're just such a tremendous and beautiful treasure to humanity. And I have tears of deep gratitude in that. I mean, you're so much fun and you're so real, and yet you're so angelic and elevated and crystalline and multiversal. I mean, it was just like, it was just such an incredible journey to spend time together. And I do have to, and I hope you don't get mad at me for sharing this, but she's an amazing spiritual rapper. And, and so, you know, I've been laughing and chuckling, you know, because I'm like recalling some of, you know, the lyrics that you were, you know, spitting out in this really magical and fluid way. And then I was attempting to, you know, beatbox or however you in the background. And that was definitely a highlight of 2021. I just wanted to shout out on your skills.
Thank you. Yeah, we definitely activated some deep codes in being in each other's presence. And I love that when you get to really spend good quality time with awakened beings, because there's just so much fluidity that can take place. And, you know, in terms of like the joy and the laughter and the playfulness, I have a hashtag with a friend of mine, Joy Fun Play Love. And it's the reminder that when it's become too serious, when we have forgotten to come into lightness with it, because it's only the ego that makes this so seriously. And there's a time and a place to be serious. There's a time and a place to honor the deep emotions of the human experience. Okay, so when we're like really moving through those denser timelines, those denser feelings, right? Rage, anger, frustration, being pissed off, like envy, jealousy. Like when we go through that, we have to go through it. We can't go around it. And I'm a big advocate to allow the human the space to do that, because I think a lot of like spiritual BS out there is basically oppressing the human emotion, or the selling this fairy tale of love light. And that's just not practical. It's not real, because I'm telling you now, every spiritual leader I know has their off days, right? So anyone that you follow online and you think is all that, I'm telling you they ain't. All right. I get the behind the scenes real stuff of it. And I love it, because that's also embodying that. But when we are working with these higher frequencies, right? So we work through those denser timelines and we start to make it serious. Okay, like, oh, you know, we've got to do this by this date, and you know, it's not actually coming from our highest perspective and our highest potential. And when you tune into these different realms of consciousness, different thought forms, or perhaps you would want to differentiate them as the elemental realms, or the angels, or the councils of light, or your higher self, or you just bring it into a collective field of oneness, right, of that unconditional love energy. There is no time, there is no pressure, there is no making you feel bad, right? That's only our own inner shit, right? That's our own inner stuff and our inner voice that is comparing ourselves to where we thought we would be by a set time. And so we have to let that go, unfortunately. But fortunately for us, we have to let that go and allow a lighter viewpoint to come in, even when we're moving through those emotional waves, right? We've got to feel that, but we've also got to feel the lightness. We've got to play. We've got to allow ourselves to come into that childlike essence, channeling that inner child. And so, you know, years ago, when I was doing some really, really, really deep activations, when I was just starting to understand, like, what is a DNA activation? What are these languages that are coming through me? I started to take it really seriously. Like, yeah, okay, I've got to be like, you know, set the space and like get the crystals out, like the candle's got to be like in that direction, and I've got to like check the moon and the astrological days. Like, okay, right now I can like, I've got to say it. And my higher self was kind of like, well, you can do all that if you want, and or you could just sit there and breathe. And I'm like, yeah, but like, got to do all the things, right? Got to like get the spiritual thing right. And spirit's like, well, yeah, I mean, if you want, and or you could just come play. Oh, you mean, well, I don't have to do all the things anymore? The spirit's like, well, no, your play, your laughter, your joy, your essence, the way you radiate love through your beingness and your open heart is what makes an activational change in your own experience and in the experience of somebody else. And so, you know, I remember this years ago, I had a retreat in Glastonbury and I was driving the minivan with a group of women at the back. And I started just being my kind of more street self, like, you know, like, you know, bringing out some raps. And then I remember I turned around and there were these ladies and they kind of had a look of them of like, what, we've never seen this side of you. Like, what? And I'm like, wow, actually, I just realized you're going to see all parts of me, and that's okay, right? Because we are all sides, we are all perspectives, we are all versions of ourselves. And that's what makes this experience even more fun. So we talk about being multidimensional. That's actually embodying the humanness of us, as well as I'm channeling my divine higher self avatar version. That's like, I'm getting a transmission. Yeah, right. That's it. That's part of it. But that is through joy, through the open heart, through the essence of what we're able to physically hold, because those high frequencies are joy. It is love. It is gratitude, right? It's the highest spectrum. And so when we're creating it dense and we're creating it more challenging and more like that, it's you know, it's up to us. We can do it that way, or we can actually let it be easy. What it could be.
I'm starting to get people who want to tap amazing offering, building you by you know, around you this coming week. Can you share a little bit about this? I'm really excited for everyone to learn about it.
Can you say that last bit again? Because you totally cut out.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, that's better. Yeah, thank you.
No, I'm saying, you know, we're going to get into some questions and answers. And I know you are also offering to do an activation, which is very exciting. But I wanted to see if you would be willing to share with us this amazing offering that is getting ready to birth through you. And I believe it's next week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can you tell us about it?
So it's this will be round 3 of this version. So it's this 21-day frequency accelerator. So we come together for 21 days to up level and empower ourselves through DNA activations and specific tools and techniques that we do every single day for those 21 days to hold the highest frequency so that we can shift those denser timelines. And we do a lot of clearing out in our energetic field, our emotional field, our spiritual field, and also our physical field. And each round of the accelerators has a slightly different theme. And so the theme for round 3, as we're wrapping up this year, is on abundance, the frequency of abundance. So that's what we're going to be holding as a collective intention. And so everything that we're going to be embodying and in the beingness of that essence for these 21 days is abundance, is the frequency of abundance. So they're really powerful. I teach specific things that we do every single morning, and then I give guidelines on anything else that we would want to add in. And I've been doing this for years, like opening up intentional spaces of 21 days. And I will make a commitment to myself for 21 days, I'm going to do these 5 things. And I know that if I focus on this, this is going to make a shift. And so I've cherry picked my best teachings, tools, and techniques and put it together in a program. And so basically for me, it's kind of fun because I'm doing this anyway. And I thought like a few months ago, wouldn't it be great actually to just invite people in and we can do this together? And so round 3 is really cool. We have our opening ceremony on the 21st, our closing ceremony on October the 11th. And then we have 2 live Q&A round circles as well in the middle of that. And it's we have an online portal program. And so we receive like an email every day with a powerful invocation with a link to the portal. And then there's the specific teachings and tools in that space as well. So it's really easy to follow. And we can take it as kind of expanded or whatever is we feel comfortable in doing. It's because the idea is that, you know, if you've been feeling a little bit like out of sorts, out of alignment, ungrounded, feeling like the year's ending, feeling like you just can't make a start on something, feeling in sabotaging behaviors, or you just want to continue and see what could expand. And it's only 3 weeks, right? And so we can have a focused amount of time for 3 weeks because it takes 21 days to build a habit and 21 days to integrate that. And so what we do is belief repatterning work with that. And then obviously those 21 days, everyone's in the field and I'm running codes through the group every day as well.
Yeah, I can feel it. It feels amazing. And I hope some of the beings that are here are hearing all of this. And Emily has put a link. Hopefully you can hear me. Emily has put a link in the chat. And so please, there's also many other goodies and treasures that you can find when you go to Zoe's website as well. So hopefully you'll tune into that and find out more about what is being offered.
Exciting. Should we open it up for some questions at this time? I know there was one question about the crystalline grid. Could you explain what that is?
Yeah, so how I see it, the crystalline grid is a lattice of energetic frequency that surrounds the planet that's holding the frequency of the 5th dimensional consciousness. And so we have these, if you look at dimensions in terms of layers, right? So we have like 1D, 2D, 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D, up to 12D to infinity and beyond. The crystalline grid is the crystalline formation of that 5D earth, of the vision that we see beyond what's here, right? That's when we can have a deeper connection and understanding of the consciousness of trees, the consciousness of rocks, the consciousness of little ants or mosquitoes, or the consciousness of water, or the consciousness of ourselves, the consciousness of the sky, the consciousness of snow, the consciousness of all of the parts of energetic frequency that make up the planet. And so as we tune into the crystalline grid, it holds information for us that we're able to receive and transmit energy, right? And so we're all energy, and obviously when we awaken, our telepathic skills come online. And so when we're working the crystalline grid, it's that higher state of consciousness. It's that ability to be able to receive and transmit energy of awareness. Does that make sense? It's like it's almost like a communication channel. If you think about like the World Wide Web, right? It's how energy is transmuted through the different consciousness, much like roots. They have their root system, and now scientists are starting to show that the root systems are all connected underneath, and they actually talk to each other. Of course they do, right? Because trees have an amazing consciousness. The cool thing about trees is we see them as stagnant and still, but actually the beings of consciousness of trees, they actually move in and out of their tree-like formations. I've actually seen many of them go into the river to play, and then they go back into their tree structures again. So
wow,
quite fun. So many of us for years were working at regridding the crystalline grid, right? And so burying crystals all through the earth, working with the electromagnetic frequencies, opening up these high dimensional portals of light. And that's pretty much done. Like that feels pretty complete. Many of us were guided to travel to many different places around the world, all of the Gaia grid portal points like Glastonbury, Machu Picchu, Egypt, Lake Louise, Mount Shasta, Sedona, the Himalayas, Uluru, like all of these main portal points, and working with these energies to reconnect and regrid and re-systemize the communication structures so that we can hold a higher frequency.
Love that. Zoe, I know that you do so much to assist humanity. And I was just curious, for you right now in your work with clients, what are you seeing as some of the, themes that are kind of coming up in your work?
If I speak on a wider scale, a lot of what I'm seeing is the programming. How can I say this in a nice way? Okay, let me tune into this. Okay, give me a second. Okay, what I'm seeing a lot, and I feel like I'm essentially here to deprogram the ascension stories that have stemmed from ego, and to help people really come into the embodiment of their humans, almost like helping people descend into their bodies, right? Because the human body, the human experience is how we hold a high frequency, right? And so many people, they leave their bodies, they have these astral experiences, they come back into their bodies, and it feels dense, feels heavy, because they don't want to be there. And from that stems this kind of inability to embrace the human experience. There's a lot of people that I've worked with over the years. It's really getting them like safe and comfortable in their bodies energetically, giving them the tools and techniques to actually feel that their body is their home, right? Their root is their home, and to actually feel home within their physical selves, but also still have that deep connection to their multidimensional versions. So it's one of the same. It's enabling to experience all of it at the same time. And then the wider spectrum of that, what's happening is similar to what I saw in 2012. There's a lot of fear-based programming that stems from Atlantis, which is this martyr program of, we're here to fix, save, or solve humanity's issues, and we have a very special purpose and nobody else knows, and we're just here to do our work and then ascend back to our blue planets. And there's a lot of ego in that. And there's also a lot of like dualistic tendencies and separation from us being human. There's nothing more sobering than really coming into this experience and really feeling this, right? And it's funny because like everyone's wanting to come into this planet, right? Like spirits are like wanting to incarnate, and we're like, no, we want to like go out and feel light. And it's like, no, actually, like we came in here to feel this, right? And as uncomfortable as that is, when we make peace with that, the true gift can happen, and that's a gift of neutrality. So we're able to embody those high dimensional frequencies of light from a higher perspective that's understanding then that we're not here to fix, save, or solve humanity's issues. We're here to hold a frequency of neutrality, of unconditional love, of compassion, of allowing for the human experience on a wider collective to go through what it consciously chooses or unconsciously chooses to go through. Because no one's ready to activate and awaken within themselves until they're truly ready. And we forget this because how many lifetimes will we shut down and did we not wake up? It just so happens that the frequencies are much higher in this dimension, in this version, in this timeline, that it's easier for us to wake up. But let's not forget how many lifetimes we kept incarnating. Oh shit, I didn't do it. Let me go back. And so a lot of people have distress with their families for that reason, especially when it comes to COVID, the vaccine, mask wearing, political debates. Like there's so much that's weaving through. Like how many people started watching the news again, right? And getting so engrossed in it and really like in the dualism of it. And now there's a lot of conflict and divide in the spiritual communities, right? There's one side of the spiritual communities that are like, the vaccines and masks, and then there's another side that's against it, and now they're battling each other, right? And so the true light workers, the grid workers, those that are holding the frequency, are able to hold the frequency of love and compassion, not to take sides and not necessarily not doing anything, not coming into the action, but to have it from a place of non-emotional charge. And that's mastery, right? It's not, I don't care about this, or I'm immune to this, or I don't have a feeling of this, but it's to hold it from a place of neutrality is fifth dimensional consciousness. And from that, the inspired action steps that we take is then actually creating the solutions in the planet, the businesses that we're here to create, the books that we're here to write, the legacy that we're here to leave, the families that we're here to raise, the relationships that we're here to co-create with and thrive upon, right? We are here to get ready with each other, and we can't do that if we're still looking at reality through duality, which is those denser timelines. And it's really hard for people to wrap their heads around. And that's where we do have to turn this on and allow all of this to be fully operational, which is do the inner work, do the energetic work. So that's what I'm helping a lot of people with right now. And it's something that I recognized as well in 2012. There was a lot of divide happening, conflict in the spiritual community. Some people were like, if you haven't done your spiritual work, then you're going to stay on this planet and rot and die. And I'm going up to the blue planet and see you later and fuck you because I've done my work. And I'm just like, whoa, hang on a minute. This is total BS. This is actually fear mongering and scarcity, right? And it's happening again in 2012, 21. And, you know, there's a lot of shifts that are happening. We talk about timeline collapsing. Let's talk about 7 billion person timeline collapse, which is what's happening right now. Humanity is going into a collective dark night of the soul. And can we hold the field? Can we hold the field? Can we strengthen our emotional well-being? Can we hold compassion in our hearts for wherever anyone's at, no matter what your views are, right? I actually had a friend of mine recently, I had to check her because she was disowning her mum because of a choice that her mum chose to take. I said, that's not compassion, that you're not holding unconditional love. You're actually in judgment, which is the lowest frequency we can hold. And so I get it, right? There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot that's happening. Many people, they are struggling. It's been so much that's happening on that wider scale, but we have to hold the field. We have to. We can't back down now. We cannot get into that energy field, right? Because it's like we're recreating it. So it's not like I'm working one-on-one with clients in this way, but this is my mission. This is what I'm here to hold is that embodiment of those pieces. Oh, Brooklyn, you have to come closer. I can't hear you then.
Here we are again. Okay, maybe I'll learn by the end of this time together that I have to bend down to talk into my computer. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, just beautiful, and graceful delivery of some really omnipotent truths. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't have brought it through in a more truthful and real way. You know, holding that frequency of neutrality, coming, you know, into that higher perspective of witnessing presence, you know, coming out of the duality, coming out of all the entanglement of separation and coming to this place of, like you're saying, holding space, radiating compassion, radiating love, being in body, being on the ground, being, you know, with, you know, humanity, right? Because we're here as humans, right? It's just, hopefully everybody was able to really feel the level of connection to divine truth that just flowed through so eloquently. So thank you so much for sharing that. Are you up for another question, or are you feeling like you wanting to go into the transmission?
No, we can do another question and then the transmission for sure.
Okay, sure.
One question that came through before was about deepening of gifts. And I know that you mentioned on your journey, and just curious for you, you know, are there tools or practices or recommendations that you have for people really looking to deepen and connect more with their gifts?
Yeah, for a start, I'd love to deprogram the word gift, right? Because that also has a sense of kind of separation from humanity and that there's something special about us. And what I'd love to replace that with is we all have an ability to channel our inner guidance. We all have an ability to listen to our inner hearts. We all have an ability to be telepathic. We all have an ability to have telekinesis. We all have an ability to have psychic awareness. We all have an ability to read energy. We all have an ability to heal ourselves and others through the embodiment of those frequencies. And so, yes, we have individual and specific codes that are perhaps more active within some of us than others. And so to activate those codes do allow us to have more of a specific way of showing up energetically, right? But like the standards of those fundamentals stem from raising your frequency, clearing out the field, right? And so as we're clearing out the density, and this can also be physical stuff. Do you have a house full of stuff that you haven't dealt with? Clear it out, right? How's your digital space? Do you have 25,000 emails unread? Maybe it's time to delete them. How's your bank accounts? Are you in touch and in relationship to your money? Are you in touch in relationship to your food? Are you in touch in relationship to the clothes that you own? Are you in touch in relationship to the products that you use on your skin? Are you in touch in relationship to the cleaning products you have in your house? Are you in touch in relationship to meditation practice? Are you in touch in relationship to creating quiet time and stillness to listen to that internal guidance? So some of these can be really foundational tools to help hold a higher frequency for those awarenesses to come in. And so I run DNA activations. And I'm not saying that that's a special gift that I have. Everyone has the ability to activate their DNA through their spoken language and through opening up their throat chakra and allowing that light to come through. I just happen to have done it, been on the path, and that's what I'm here to share. But there's many other elements to that. And our gifts, if we want to call them gifts for a moment, are infinite. When we tap into the unlimited potential of source consciousness multidimensionally, it's endless. I've had sessions with people where these techniques have come through and I've never done it before, ever in my life. I'm like, oh, they're wanting me to show you this thing and you do this for 7 days and I have no idea what it means. And I'm like, oh my God, am I crazy? Like, what is this? And they go do this thing for 7 days and they come back and go, oh my God, you never guess what? This whole experience happened to me after 7 days. And I don't even know what it was that I was concerned about before. I'm like, awesome. So I just want to invite those listening, expand beyond this feeling of like that it's a gift, because you're just expanding back to who you are as source creator, and source creator is infinite. But yeah, some of the beginning pieces of that is strengthening your psychic abilities, opening up your heart, working with your third eye, working with your energy centers. Because actually, when you go deeper into the quantum realm of a energetic human experience, you actually find that these chakras are only there to have an awareness of kind of density, and they actually kind of merge into one consciousness, like one heart center. And that's not to say that like we're meant to be like removing our chakras or anything, but as you come into these higher realms, these high octaves of light, it's just there ready for you, right? We don't need to leave the body anymore to have a transmission or a message. We don't have to sit for 10 days in Vipassana to clear something. I mean, if you want to do that, go do that. I think these teachings and tools are amazing, but follow your inner guidance. And also, I'm going to share this, like, you don't really know necessarily like how things start to become activated and turned on for you until it starts happening as well. And so let go of the ego need of trying to find it or trying to kind of force it, right? And so I'm trying to think back to examples. Probably around 2010, I was like, I want to know what my gifts are and my special thing to share with the world. And I was trying to like find ways to like unlock these gifts. And what I thought these gifts were meant to be wasn't actually what I ended up ascending into. And at the time, it felt so far-fetched to me, this concept of DNA activation, light codes, like what is that, right? There wasn't really much information back then on it. But through cleansing of my body, unbeknownst to me, that's what I was doing. But once I had a Temascal ceremony, I was actually super sick for 4 days afterwards. It was like my body just totally like emptied out. And when I sat in meditation, I just got this message, like that was the quickest way that you could be ready to hold the light, to hold these frequencies. And that's when these tones started to come through. I wasn't planning for that to happen. It was just a natural path of the journey. So I would say be inquisitive like a child as to what you're being guided to do, and trust that. You know, if you're being guided to go somewhere, or you're being guided to sit down, or you're being guided to, I don't know, take a flight somewhere, like trust that, because there's something there for you that you couldn't think of. You couldn't make it up, because it's so beyond that. That makes sense?
Yes, so helpful. I love those. Thank you.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
Are you feeling up for transitioning into a little transmission of sorts?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just going to fill in to what wants to come through. So just inviting you all to close your eyes, open your heart, feel the soles of your feet on the earth, and just imagining a golden column of light from the central sun down through the crown of your head, all the way down through your body, out through the soles of your feet, and all the way down into the crystalline core of Gaia. So just feeling this beautiful golden column of energy. Imagining your heart open, all of your energy centers opening, your auric field expanding all the way around you. And in your mind's eye, see, sense, feel, make it up, imagine beautiful golden crystalline light that's running through every single cell of your being, up leveling you, clearing out any density, lethargy, and allowing this to go down into the earth, into the crystalline core of Gaia. And if your mind starts to wander, bring it back to your breath. I am breathing in, I am breathing out. And so when I'm tuning in, I'm getting the message to bring through a transmission of unified peace, connection to the angelic realms, and just the softening, the energy of softening coming in as well, and surrendering. So letting this be the activational intention of this moment as we call through the 4 directions of the north, the south, the east and the west, the ancestors and elders, to create a beautiful space of pure open-hearted intention, electromagnetic grid of light, of infinite potential. And just noticing if there's any areas of density or heaviness in the body, continue to flood your body with this golden energy down into the earth. And also then imagining this golden light bouncing back up from the center of the earth, all the way up through your body into your heart and radiating all the way around you. And expanding your energy field, expanding your potential, expanding your heart, expanding your mind, expanding your intuition, your ability to receive all of who you truly are. In your mind's eye, just imagine pure consciousness, golden energy, pure crystalline light. And as you deepen your breath, just allowing your cells to connect to this transmission of energy as it's going to start coming through now. Isukaya tiki mataya masuya. Yataritiki masusuyanda dishita makama. Uya matiki masutuyana. Rega masututa masushi mataki takaya matututu yamanaki apokork tskametu sama. Ya taria sasi, yo también tu y mario quería masasa tanto shian daria mutu yanda shia. Yama susama susama. Uta uaka yama susa. Ah, yama sama susa Mariana. Ande kama sutama. Orka yama sisi matu yama sutama tama. Oh, ya tata kio kwak 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 yep swak kwak 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 yep tu Yamasu tamatapata sakabea tutu ate yamatu shi ti ki tu yamatu tu yamatu tu yamasa. And just relaxing your stomachs, breathing into your tummies and letting everything go down into the earth. Suta masama tu tapi masu shama ti ki amato tamarin ti masutu ya masama yamanda moyata siti sita turiamato tuma ietama susama atarenkema su yamanda yatata neko yata masu yamato sama taremata masu yata poeta toe masu yama sa andarana anshianda kutama tutama kutama soto kutama soto etakyo. And just allowing that energy to flood every single cell of your being, feeling the elevation of consciousness, your heart open, your energy field expanded, grounding. Welcome home to your new vibration of who you truly are. Just feeling the consciousness of light source running through every single part of your being. Continuing to receive this transmission of light for the next 24 to 48 hours afterwards, elevating your consciousness, your potential. What wants to shift for you now, you're back into alignment in your bodies, in your heart space. Connecting to all of who you be, the most amount of change in the shortest amount of time possible. Just holding this energy, feeling this energy. You are energy. Deepening your inhalations, breathing out through your mouth. Letting go of any tension in your jaw. Suyamana. Suyamanda. Suturuyamaka. Saya. Just bringing your hands together in front of your heart space, bowing your head to your heart. Take a deep breath in. Deep breath out. Rubbing your hands together to create some heat. Placing them over your eyes, feeling the warmth of your hands and your third eye. Gently opening your eyes, coming into space, feeling the energy, the lightness. Giving yourself a great big hug. Beautiful.
Amazing.
That was incredible.
Really incredible. Thank you so much. There was so much light streaming through. It was just beyond words beautiful. Thank you. So anything that you might suggest in way of integration of that powerful transmission to those who are gathered here?
Yeah, definitely just be open to continuing to receive the frequencies for the next couple of days. You know, like normally my activations are 90 minutes to 2 hours. So we just did like a concentrated version in a short amount of time, but there's no time. And so just be open to receiving more of who you are. Work and play with these higher frequencies. Keep imagining that gold crystalline energy running through your being. A lot of the times when we're feeling a little bit kind of frustrated or disconnected is because we forgot to run energy through our system. And so it's a really quick, powerful way to like have a energetic tune up and come back into alignment again. So
amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here on Earth in this now time, and for being here and joining us today on Unity. We are so grateful and honored to have you here, and yeah, love you.